Right, now let's try a much more full-on smile, almost a laugh, with the mouth really wide open, upper and lower teeth visible, cheeks clenched, and the eyes very nearly closed. So here we go again. This time you will see that the gums are much more exposed than the other smile. This is not necessarily something that happens in every smile. It's just a characteristic of the type of dentition that an individual has. It just happens she shows a lot of gum, this model. So again, I've been defining the upper teeth while considering, as ever, the arch, which is very evident from here. And I've got to make a distinction between the gum and the upper lid. So I'm using a slightly stronger red to do that. It's sort of risky going this far on the mouth alone. So before going any further, I'm just going to tick where I think the boundaries are going to be. Now I'm using my little triangle again just to sort of try and establish where the eyes should be. And I'm taking a point somewhere, the centre of the two front teeth, and trying to get some idea of where that side of the triangle what direction it would go in order to contact the middle of her eye. My assessment is it's something like that. And then the other side is much more upright. In fact, if you drop a vertical from the centre of her eye, it's extraordinary how it coincides with the side of the mouth in a real straight line. When those sort of things happen, grab them because they're really useful. So I know that the other eye is somewhere on that line, and that this one is going to be at a level with it. Again, there's a slight slope downwards. That just is to stop me getting them all out of key with each other. So just a slight indication of nose. The nose is not vital, this drawing. We're not too concerned with it. We're really, really concerned with what's happening between the eyes and the mouth. The way that the pulling outwards of the mouth by the action of the cheek has as a result, and I'm taking a darker colour here, a closing of the eyes. Sometimes the eyes completely close in a big smile. They're pretty closed here. Okay, so now I'm sort of sure, fairly sure that that things are going to go in, and I can return to the open mouth. We define the bottom edge of the teeth, of the top teeth, to match the arches we've already done on the where they reach the gum. There we go. But what's different here is that we also see the row of the second teeth, the lower teeth. They're not, the divisions between those are not so obvious because they tend to be more even. The lower teeth tend to be sort of straight. Now, here's the lower lip. It covers the gum, the lower gum, so that is the defining line for the lower teeth. Avoid the use of black or dark, really dark brown in the interior of mouths. It just looks dirty. It's much better to use a nice hot reddish colour. It can be reddy brown, but never black, never dark brown. And of course now the mouth is turning away out of sight. And that means that the side of the mouth, the actual facial area around the mouth disappears and reappears now in this bunched form. Back to the eyes to accent the fact that they're nearly closed and give a little bit of strength to them, perhaps a bit of blue. Generally, shadows around the eyeshadow part, tend to be cooler, as they are indeed on the nose. Cooler in colour, that is, by which I mean greeny, bluer, less pink, less red. Although when you get to the tip of the nose, or the top of the nose, you can find some quite hot colours too. And you see that's the top of the bunching of the cheek. So it leaves the lower lid as a little high point and pushing up to nearly close the eye. Same thing happening here. Now, up to now we've been dealing mainly with the mouth, the smile, the open mouth, teeth showing, but the human face is capable of thousands of expressions. It's a good idea to get, if you can persuade a friend to pose for you, someone who's fairly extrovert and will make lots of silly expressions, aggressive expressions. Take a series of photographs and then you've got reference to study them from. This is one that I took of a friend of mine, and it's sort of worried more than aggressive. This time I'm using gouache, and I'm going to start with the red triangle as usual. So I sort of think it's somewhere like that. Okay. Now I'm just going to draw a central line. You can be very bold with gouache because it's a dark to light medium. You can put down the darks and you can cover darks or medium tones with lighter tones. Can't do that with watercolour, you have to work the other way. You may see that I've set out the palette in such a way that all my hot, warm and lighter colours are in one palette and at one end of it, starting from white. And as they get earthy or darker or colder, like green, blue, the two blues, they're as far away as possible from these. That helps me know where they are for a start, but also it means they don't get adulterated so quickly, end up with dirty colours. And notice I haven't touched the white yet. Now there's some narrowing of the eyes going on here, but it's not due to the cheeks being pushed up as in a smile. They're being narrowed by the eye muscles alone. Just going to have to use a little bit of white now to mix a sort of blue-grey to show where the so-called whites of the eye are. The eyes are not the shape they should be at the moment, but I'm placing them there. I can wait for the paint to dry a bit, and in the meantime try and place everything and see if my original red triangle was correct. So cheekbone places, centre of the mouth, that's where I thought it was. Perhaps a little bit higher, but I don't know. No, maybe it is right, because I'm looking at the width between the eyes, which is very often one eye width again. But again, don't rely on it. Check it. And the key to this expression, three things: the narrowing of the eyes, clenching of the brows, and this slightly curious pursed lip. I'm mixing a fairly cold pink for where the light is catching the lower lip. Tend in the main to work towards light, so if you're going to err on the dark side or the stronger side, and reckon to modify it with lighter colour later on. There's no point in getting really involved in the exact shape of eyes, nose or mouth, as I've said before, until you're sure they're in the right place. I'm still not sure about that. It may be corrected if I just make the eyes a little wider. Yeah, that looks as though it's better. Right, I'm going to take another brush now. This is raw umber. Warm it up a little bit. See, one of the red triangle lines is gone immediately. Just paint over it. It's gone. You'd be very tempted to give the same value of light to this cheek as to that one, but in fact, although that is light compared with the dark, it's not as light as this side, which is catching the light more directly. Paint's still a bit wet around the eyes, so I'm not going to touch it just for the moment. Better control if you're going to be painting onto dryish paint, dryish colour. Don't use black unless you're absolutely sure you're seeing it. In the main, unless in the case of a very, very black African skin, you might see it. But even then, you probably won't, because the highlights reflect quite blue, and you're going to find blues and greens in the shadow colour. You'll see it in photographs, but that's because the film can't cope with the full range. But if you look into the shadows, you almost certainly find a colour. And if you imagine you see a colour, paint it. And I'm going to define the inner edge of the lower lid.
Now available on DVD. Try these techniques yourself at home whenever you wish. The extended version of today's workshop is now available to order on DVD from the Painting and Drawing channel. For further information and to order your copy, go to www.paintingdrawingchannel.com.